no Jedi.
Your powers are weak, old man.
Always remember, your focus determines your reality.
Hello there.
General Kenobi! You don't know the power of the dark side.
Hello and welcome back to the Disciples of the Force podcast. I am your host, Austin Hyatt, and this is my wonderful co-host, senior co-host, Spencer Silva here.
Senior. Hello, it's me again.
We're just going to jump right into it. Not a ton of Star Wars news today. Jedi Survivor, the sequel to Fallen Order, comes out today. I pre-ordered it, downloaded it, and I've got like 6 hours left before I can play it. So that's exciting. Spencer is still a fake fan and still hasn't played the first one because he says he's too busy. So that's crazy. But they're saying it's the best Star Wars game in 20 years, which is crazy because I really liked the campaign of Battlefront 2, the new one. So it'll be good.
We'll see.
And they also released a trailer today. Oh, what you got to say about it, huh?
I'm just going to say we'll see, man.
They released a trailer today with Mark Hamill and what's his freaking name? Monahan. I don't know his first name, but the guy who plays Cal Kestis, the protagonist of these video games. It was a really funny ad. Go watch it. And then Return of the Jedi returns to theaters today, I believe, this Thursday, the 27th. And it'll run through the weekend at least, and probably for the next couple of weeks. So go see that in theaters. That'll be a once-in-a-lifetime thing to see in theaters if you weren't alive in 83. So that's what I'm excited for, and that's all the news I have. Spenny, anything else from you?
News-wise, nope. Austin's our news guy. He always is just getting it for us, so thanks, Oz, for being on top of that.
Sure.
This week, we got a couple things on the agenda. We're going to go over the Mando recap, and then we'll talk about Visions in honor of Visions coming out next week, May 4th. So to start with the Mando recap, we're going to talk about our favorite episode of the season, our least favorite episode of the season. And before we do that, I'm going to give you the IGN reviews over everything. So starting with episode 1, The Apostate, that's an 8 out of 10. Pretty strong. And it was a good starter. 7 out of 10 for the second episode, The Mines of Mandalore. The third episode was 8 out of 10, The Convert. And then the next episode was 7 out of 10, which is The Foundling. And then the next two are going to be 6 out of 10, which was The Pirate and Guns for Hire, which had Jack and Lizzo. And then the last two were an 8 out of 10 and a 9 out of 10. So IGN giving it a total overall score of 7 out of 10. Clearly not as good as season 2, but that is what that's what they rated. Anyways, with that, Ost, what are you thinking?
Yeah, we haven't been shy talking about this season, how it was kind of a letdown in a lot of ways. And the more I've thought of it, like for this activity, I was kind of reviewing the season. I didn't go back and watch any of the episodes, but I was just kind of scrolling through some of these, and I was actually talking to my buddy Brady last night about kind of some of the things that went wrong. The more I think about it, the less I like this season, which is a shame. But yeah, I mean, what can you do? It was good Star Wars content, and I say good, not great. Nothing really exciting. But I don't know. Yeah, let's talk about it. Do you want to talk about your favorite episodes first? Least favorite?
Yeah, I think my favorite. I think for sure my favorite starting was The Foundling with Jar Jar Binks' actor. I forgot his name.
Yeah, Mod Best.
Yeah, I thought that was a sick intro to an episode and gave us some feedback of what was kind of going on. But I think overall, like my favorite episode, I'm going to be cliche, and I liked the finale. I thought it was good, and I thought there were some really sick fights in it. I thought that was good. And the last two are kind of equal for me, interchangeable.
Yeah.
And there's really not, I mean, even me saying that isn't like, oh, I love this, the best episode ever. It's just saying out of what I've had to choose, that's what I would say. What about you?
Right. Yeah, same thing for me. The last two episodes did it for me. We talked a lot about like some of the the fight scenes, like that jetpack scene when all the Mandalorians are coming down into that cave base. So cool. Really capped off the season pretty well. Story wise, kind of fell flat in some areas, but I do like that we got to see the Mandalorians back on Mandalore and Bo-Katan finally leading the people. I mean, we've seen that a billion times, but to see it again, so that's good. Yeah.
And I think somebody made a good point when I was like kind of doing some research on this. They talked about how, and we've talked about this as well, just these last episodes were just felt rushed. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like, and like as you mentioned last week, we could have easily given us a middle episode between the two, but it just feels like we started off good, you know, kind of giving a lot of background of what's going on, and then we hit the middle and it's just fluff. You're just like, what's okay? You know, a lot of hate because we're not getting anywhere, you know? And as you said, you love filler episodes, and I'm okay with them, but I felt like this one just had a lot that it just felt like they could have done more with.
Well, yeah, here's the thing too. And again, just as I've kind of been reviewing these, I love filler episodes. I love world building episodes. The problem with them in this season particularly is they just weren't executed very well, and they felt very out of place. Like Guns for Hire, how are you going to make that the 6th episode of the season? If that was the first, I would have been happy. If that was the first episode of the season, I mean, obviously, like we'd have to explain why Din and Bo are together, but if it was just Din Djarin doing that, and that was the first episode of the season, would have had probably no problem with it, except for, you know, the visual effects, and it looked kind of cheesy.
Yeah.
And then also the a la verga. What is that episode called? Oh, The Convert. The one on Coruscant where we're following Pershing and Elia Kane. Like, again, that would have been such a cool story if the actors were good, or if it looked good in any way, or if it was written a little bit better. But it was just kind of painful because that ended up being the longest episode of the season. And look, I'm grateful for that episode because it showed us what's going on in the New Republic. It really gave us a big glance at that. But then, and we've kind of talked about this before as well, like that took a 59-minute episode, trim, you know, about 10 minutes off of that for what was following Bo and Din, or Djarin. We're not sure if it's Din or Djarin. How do you, anyway?
We don't know anymore, dude.
But so, you know, around 48 minutes covering these people who we don't really care about, who are kind of going to get written off, and they're just a story device that leads us to Moff Gideon and tells us how the New Republic is doing. Later in the season, we see that council meeting between Gideon and the other ex-Imperials or remnants, and they explain so much, and that's a ton of exposition that's given to show us what's going on in the world. And it's like they did that in 5 minutes just as effectively as a 48-minute episode about two uninteresting characters, or well, even interesting characters just portrayed by pretty bad actors and written pretty poorly. So anyway, that was my kind of beef with the world building episodes.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, that hands down is my least favorite episode of the season because it just felt like it was just dragging on, and for him to just get his mind. I mean, maybe that's going to play to a bigger thing later, but even if that's the case, they could have told all of that within 10 minutes. You know what I mean?
Right.
He meets her. Right. He's like, "Hey, what's up? Hey, I want to start doing my lab. All right, let's get you some supplies. Go get the supplies. Boom, it's a setup. Your mind, it's gone. We got what we needed. Boom, bada bang." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because that was the big bulk of it all, but there was just so much drawn out. And like you said, it was cool to see how the New Republic was operating. Like, oh, okay, yeah, we can see it's really kind of like that's the old way. That's not us. But I feel like that was a repetition throughout that whole episode, so it could have been chopped up. And I don't know. I agree with you, though. But what was your least favorite? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, well, sorry, just to bounce off of that. And that story would have been good somewhere else, I think, if there was more time put into it, more effort. Somebody pointed out to me that might have been something that they were going to explore in Rangers of the New Republic, the show that got canceled because of Gina Carano being a neo-Nazi. Just kidding. I don't want to say that extreme, but she posted a Nazi thing, whatever. Anyway, it got canceled because of her, and I think that's what the whole series was going to be about, like showing kind of the inner workings of the New Republic, and that would have been very interesting. And I think because they knew that wasn't going to come back, they were like, well, we still want to force this narrative in here, again, to add to the sequels and to make us appreciate those more. They had to give us some context of how the New Republic was formed and how it's doing. So they had to fit it in somewhere. And it sucks that it was in the middle of Mandalorian, but where else could they have fit it? So,
Right.
I mean, I don't fault them for doing that, but it's kind of obvious that that's what they were doing. So, my least favorite episode has to be Guns for Hire.
Yeah. I guess.
And a lot of people were complaining about. Yeah, a lot of people were complaining about Jack Black and Lizzo, and yes, like Lizzo isn't an actress, and that's fine. And Jack Black is such a big actor, and Christopher Lloyd, that it kind of took me out of it. But it comes down to personal preference. Well, maybe not personal preference, but when I was growing up, my sisters would watch CSI, Crime Scene Investigation. Such a cheesy detective show. Hated it all the time, and they were obviously older than me and could control the TV, So I was forced to watch that kind of junk all the time. So to see an episode that was like in some ways shot for shot an homage to that kind of detective show, I was like, ugh, just not for me.
Right.
And then coupling that with it being out of place, poorly made, all that stuff. I thought that was abysmal.
Yeah, that did rub some salt in the wound, and I think that's what gave a lot of people no hope for the series. I mean, that season, we're just kind of like, what's happening?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, the Spies comes, and it's a good episode. It's really good, and then the return. They ended strong, and that was another thing. A lot of people, it's kind of like consensus is that, they didn't love the season, but the last two episodes saved it. You know what I mean? Like they were like,
right.
So. Also, sorry, I want to take a quick break. I was going to bring this up. Sorry, did you have something to say on lines with that? If you do, you can go.
Just real quick. I don't want to make you forget what you were going to say, but that is what sucks about. I can't imagine being a creator for Star Wars, because Star Wars fans, we get a lot of flack for it, that we're like the worst fan base in all of media, because we're never happy with anything. Like, people complained about how slow and boring Andor was. I loved Andor. I'm not shy about that. And because it was so slow, they had so much time to explore these stories. The last two episodes of this season, you got to see the potential of what it could have been the entire season. If they would have taken their time, they could have told these last two episodes over the course of the season. Obviously, it wouldn't have run that well. But it's just like, yeah, some Star Wars fans are going to say that cramming that all into the last two episodes is kind of rushed, but some fans prefer that to the slow burn of Andor, so.
Right. And
anyway, sorry, what were you going to say?
Well, I run lines with that. I think the other thing is like, people, they have a lot of beef waiting, that long, but I think maybe I think if it was a 4-episode, like, kind of a thing, like half the season was that, I think a lot of people would have liked it. It wouldn't have been too slow, but it would have been fast enough. And one thing that is also is like, we touched on the clones, right? Moff Gideon clones, and that's it. It was just a brief touch, and then we moved
right
on. And it's to say, maybe they got plans in the future, other shows, whatever. But still, it's just like, man, that was just kind of thrown at us, and then we're like, okay, that's it, game over, move on.
Yeah,
season's done. So
exactly.
But anyways,
was that the other thing you were gonna say, or okay, sorry, go ahead.
No. So what I was gonna say, I wanted to bring up. Did you hear what Temuera Morrison had said about Mandalorian season 3?
I did see that. Yeah, I guess that is some news. Yeah, tell us about it.
So I got the direct quote here. So because when I first saw it, it was on TikTok, and I was like, this is probably someone just making it up. But this is a direct article from Independent Company UK, and it's on a bunch of other ones. But it says, this is his words. I was supposed to be in The Mandalorian season 3, but nobody rang me. I was waiting for the phone call in New Zealand, waiting and wanting to give up. He said, of Pascal's appearance in the Book of Boba Fett, well, that Mando guy stole a few chapters of my book. I'm sure this guy is ruining my show, but I couldn't say anything. I'm not the writer, so I have to bear it, I guess. Which, I mean, that sucks, because he loves the character, you know what I mean? Like, he's developed it, and it's just like, man, that's got to be heartbreaking that they bring in Din Djarin into Boba Fett and kind of take it from him, right? And then he doesn't show back up in season 3. And I think he can feel it as well that they've ruined Boba Fett, but he can't say anything. He's not a writer, and that's even harder. The actor who loves the character is even sees it as well.
Exactly. And we've talked about this before, but I think Temuera is alluding to the fact that on a deeper level, not that just, Din Djarin showed up in his series, but that the Mandalorian as a concept was first created as a Boba Fett movie or series. After Solo, quote unquote, failed at the box office, Disney was like, "Oh, we can't make these reboot," because they had it planned out. They had Obi-Wan movies, or an Obi-Wan movie, and a Boba Fett movie. So they had to kind of pull out of that, and because Solo failed, they were like, "Oh, we don't want to do anything with our legacy characters," but they still liked the Boba Fett concept, so they wanted to make it into a different Mandalorian, so that you could still have the cool bounty hunter, man with no name, scary guy. Turn that into a show that was separate from Boba Fett. So when Temuera Morrison says that Mando guy stole a few chapters from my book, quite literally, the Mandalorian could have been a Boba Fett story. I mean, obviously we wouldn't have the Grogu, and it would be in a different time period, whatever. But yeah, it is really sad for Temuera Morrison because, like you said, he does care about the character. And on another level, I love Pedro Pascal. We've loved him in Narcos, loved him in The Last of Us, whatever. And in this, of course. But I think I read something where he wasn't on set and that's been the whole case throughout every season. He's mostly not on set. It's usually a stunt guy in the Mandalorian suit. So to see somebody who is arguably the hottest actor in the world right now, who has no shortage of work, not even bother to show up to portray a character. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have Temuera Morrison, who's been playing a character for over 20 years now and loves that character and wants to be called back, and he just isn't given the opportunity. It is pretty sad to hear that from Tim. That sucks.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. It's like, dang, and I didn't know that. That's crazy that's what the original was going to be, was the Boba Fett. And that sucks that they rolled the dice with the Han Solo movie and it didn't turn out, because and there's a lot of we can dive into that another.
Yeah, we could talk all day about it. The thing is, and this is all speculation, I don't know how much of this I read in an actual article or how much, even with that Boba Fett thing. So if you're hearing this and you're like, this guy doesn't know what the F he's talking about, comment, send us an email, whatever. But what I had understood was Kathleen Kennedy thought, and obviously we always just paint her as the bad guy when she's really not. She thought that it was recasting Han Solo that was the problem, when there were a million other issues, the release date, the bad marketing for it, all this kind of stuff that made it fail. And they were like, "Oh no, it was because we recasted these characters." And that even bleeds into today, where we can't have a Luke Skywalker without bringing in Mark Hamill and deep faking his face, because Disney is still afraid to recast him. So yeah, it just sucks, but it's whatever.
There was an actor. Oh my goodness, you probably know the name, but they dead ringer, to cast Mark Hamill as a young Luke. I gotta find his name, but it's it looks just like him. They can dress him up, But at the end of the day, it's can he hit the mannerisms and everything the same? But I think if they're dedicated, what's his name? Lincoln. The heck is his name? Dude who played Lincoln in There Will Be Blood.
Oh, Daniel Day-Lewis.
Daniel Day-Lewis. If they just did some method acting like him, dude, they'd be...
Yeah, dude. He's probably one of the greatest actors of all time. Disney's gonna snag him. I mean, seriously, dude, if they cast Daniel Day-Lewis as Luke Skywalker, he would somehow make it work. That's how great of an actor he is, But no, yeah, if they could find some dude that just went method with it, that'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry. I thought about that today. While you're talking, I sparked a memory of that. I was like, yeah, we should probably talk about that, because that's cool.
No, I'm very glad you said something, because that, Temuera Morrison is one of my favorite parts of the Star Wars franchise, and that's why the Book of Boba Fett sucked so bad. Was seeing like this guy who is capable. Like even today when I was rewatching some of the Visions episodes, and he cameos in the second episode as Boba Fett, his voice. I was like, dude, this guy actually comes. He shows up, and what else? He also showed up as a cameo in this season, just his voice for the clones. And that could have been done with AI. I know Disney's been known to do that, but I would imagine they would reach out to Tem.
Right.
But if he's saying they didn't. But anyway, he cameoed as the voice of the clones in that same Ahmed Best scene you were talking about in this season of The Mandalorian. And he was just in the Book of Boba, or in Obi-Wan Kenobi as that retired clone trooper. Like Tim makes it work so he can come back and show up. And it's like we love those kind of actors in Star Wars, so it does suck when they're not given justice, and their characters are slandered, like in the Book of Boba Fett. So
it's hard. It's hard to watch. It's one of those things that you're just watching your Star Wars fall down. Yeah. So with that, is there anything else you have with the Mandalorian off the top of your brain?
No. I mean, in conclusion, pretty disappointed with the season. I'm not looking forward to next season, which sucks, and maybe we won't have another season. But I did see something where Dave Filoni said that because it was being reported that his 2025 movie, his Mandoverse movie, is going to be the culmination of the Mandoverse. And he said something that it's not the ending of the story. So I could see Disney like running. Yeah, me too. I could see them running the Mandalorian dry, and like after that movie comes out, trying to capitalize on the IP. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm not looking forward to next season if there's a next season before the movie.
Yeah.
So that sucks.
Disney, money hungry, dude. You got billions. Chill out.
Come
on. Yeah. Well, and like I said, it is, and it's just kind of, you've hit your peak, and it's coming down. So we'll see what happens in the end. And
right.
I'm hoping they correct us, and they take fan feedback, but they never do. So we'll see. So let's jump into McVisions, shall we?
On to McVisions. Let's do it.
Okay. So to start, we'll go over some cameos real fast that are in Visions. There's a lot, didn't even realize. So to start, you already mentioned it. Temuera Morrison as Boba Fett, which, like you said, like he stars in Tatooine Rhapsody, which is like arguably one of the worst episodes.
The worst one.
Right. And he still did it because he's like loves Star Wars and he loves his character and he's like willing. I mean, that's crazy. And then in that same episode, Joseph Gordon-Levitt was Jay, the main kid. He was the singer. You know that?
No way.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Next is in the episode The Twins, Alison Brie, who's Am, which is Annie from Community, if you've seen it. And then the brother is Neil Patrick Harris. Didn't know that till like their voices are kind
what?
Yeah, I know, dude. If you listen to it once, you're like, oh, that's definitely them. But they kind of like, especially Alison Brie, she doesn't like she does something different with her voice, so you can't tell it's her at all. Anyways, crazy.
Crazy.
The elder has David Harbour, or I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he's a guy. He's Hopper in Stranger Things.
Right. Love Stranger Things. Favorite
he's
series.
The Jedi Master in that episode. And then the old man is James Hong, who was Mr. Ping in Kung Fu Panda, and he's also in Everything Everywhere All at Once. I've never seen it, but
okay, dude. When I was watching that today, I was like, why does this dude sound so familiar? Yeah, he's one of the greatest actors of all time. Like, if you look at that dude's filmography, he's been in probably 300 movies. Not even an exaggeration.
I was scrolling through. I was like, oh, this dude's been in a bunch.
Yeah.
And then the last episode, I don't know. I'm gonna butcher.
79. Sorry, not 300. Not close.
Yeah, same thing.
I just looked it up.
It's called Akakiri. I probably butchered that. Sorry, and I'm gonna butcher this guy's name. But George. Oh, I don't want to mess it up because I know there might be Star Trek fans. George Taki. He is Sulu in Star Trek. He's also the guy in Family Guy that they always make fun of that goes, hello. You know, the
Okay,
Star
yeah,
Trek
yeah,
guy
yeah,
that they're
yeah,
always blowing. That's him.
yeah.
And then
Okay.
Henry Golding is in that episode as well, and he's the main dude in Crazy Rich Asians. So crazy, yeah, a bunch
Oh
of
my gosh!
cameos in such a short.
Wow.
Yeah, so really awesome. I mean, there might have been some other ones, but I didn't recognize any of the names. But I was surprised. I'm like, that's a big chunk for sure. So
Wow.
now you know. If you're watching,
That's crazy.
now you know. Anyways, so to start, we're gonna list.
Wait. Hold on. Sorry. I just wanted to cut you off real quick. This
cool.
lists Karen Fukuhara as one of them.
From The Boys? Is that
Oh, don't tell me you don't effing know who. Yeah. We love Karen Fukuhara.
I had to make sure I didn't want to.
She's on my top 10 list.
Yeah, she's beautiful. Wait,
let me make sure she's actually in. She's listed as F, which I don't remember.
Because sometimes they have like the.
Oh, okay.
She was all. Yeah.
So
that
in
was
the
voices. So if there's any other names, any other voices that were for different languages, I did not know.
Right.
So, keep going.
In the Bride one, is that what it's called? The Bride?
The Village Bride, yeah.
The Village Bride. So she's like the Jedi that saves them at the end.
Oh, snapple, popple.
Dude, that's crazy. You texted me about it earlier about how many people. Also, Simu Liu, who is Shang-Chi.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I'm just like going crazy about this. And Kyle Chandler.
There's a bunch, dude. I was like, that's crazy that they got such big voice actors for this little project.
It's insane. Wow.
It's super cool.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. That's it. That's pretty much all the ones I wanted to talk about.
Oh, hey, dude, don't even worry about it. So real quick, we're gonna read the IGN. IGN lost a lot of credibility for me on this one. I'm gonna be honest. So I'm gonna say all of them from how they were released in the volume. So they gave the duel 9 out of 10, that's a fair score. 8 out of 10 on Tatooine Rhapsody, which I cannot believe it. 8 out of 10.
Insane.
That's literally crazy. 9 out of 10 on the Twins, which is fine. I think it's a little high, but whatever. 7 out of 10 for the Village Bride. 7 out of 10 on the Ninth Jedi. And when I was reading the comments, people were like, the Ninth Jedi, you gave 7 out of 10. That's absurd. And then they gave
that one's solid.
8 out of 10 to T0B1, which is the little boy robot, which is that's insane. It's such a high number.
Yeah.
7 out of 10 to the Elder, which is low in my opinion, but we'll talk about it.
That's insane, dude. Okay,
yeah.
Anyway, sorry, go on.
Insane. Blows my mind. 6 out of 10 to Lop and Ocho, which is fair. I don't know. And then the last episode got 8 out of 10, Akakiri. Overall, they gave Visions Volume 1 8 out of 10, which that's a pretty high score. I was surprised how highly they rated it. And there's some questionable things in there that I'm like, but the thing is, when I was reading through the person who did it, they were like a lot of the beginning is like, oh, the animation's so good in this one and this one and this one. So it's like, I think a lot of the animation is what they rated it so high on some of these episodes, but I was still like, I can't believe it.
Yeah, that's whack.
So anyways, what we're going to do, we kind of talked about this earlier. We're going to read through, we're going to go least to best. We're just going to say them all, and then we will explain why after. So Austin, you can start us off. I've been talking for a bit, so go for it.
Okay. Least to best?
Least to best, yeah. Give me your least to best, baby.
Okay. Tatooine Rhapsody, bottom. And when I was rewatching this today, I was like, maybe I just didn't like it because at the time when this first came out, I wasn't into like the music or something. But it's just kind of bad. Like the music
bad.
and it's bad.
Well,
no.
Hello?
Sorry. I was just getting a call. Did that come through?
No, I didn't hear anything.
Okay, good.
While you're saying that,
sorry.
The storyline,
go ahead.
Yeah, it's bad, but keep going. No, that's all.
Yeah, it's just, it wasn't that great. Tatooine Rhapsody, which it had the potential to be because it was like a former Jedi Padawan turned into this rock star. Pretty cool. And here's the little disclaimer for Visions. It's non-canonical. These are literally just shorts to like flex the studio's animation muscles and to give us just more Star Wars content out of the universe. I mean, in the universe, but out of canon. So can't take any of them too seriously, but Tatooine Rhapsody kind of sucked. Then probably La Pinocho, which, whatever. TOB1. The Twins, The Village Bride, Akakiri. Ooh, and then I think The Ninth Jedi, then The Elder, then my favorite was The Duel. The Elder and The Duel are like up there for me. So
that is, brother, respect.
Come on.
No, the only thing we didn't. So I'll read mine real quick and we can talk about it. But
okay, let's hear it.
So number 9, Tatooine Rhapsody, and then I flopped 8 and 7 because 8 is TOB1, and then 7 La Pinocho, and then I put the Twins, The Village Bride, Akakiri, The Ninth Jedi, and then we swapped here, The Duel, and then I went The Elder. The reason why, and I like you said, that's hard, but The Elder's what got me to actually dive into it because like, oh, this is really good.
Right.
But yeah, we hit a lot of those on the head.
Dude, crazy.
Real quick, what I want to talk about with the low ones. So Tatooine Rhapsody, the reason I didn't like it is like their buddy is like, getting taken to Jabba, right? And they're just like, oh, we'll just play music, and like the music saves him. I get it's a different vibe of what the thing is, of what Star Wars is, but I was like, that's not why I'm watching this. You know what I mean? But I think they placed it perfectly in where it needed to be in the volume number 2, because they start off so strong with 1, but you can't start off number 1 with Tatooine, and you can't, put it in the middle or towards the end.
Yeah.
Throw it up there. So I think that's good. But anyways, keep going.
Well, that's the other thing is of why it kind of sucks is like we always complain as Star Wars fans that we've seen enough of Tatooine, and like they drop us in Tatooine with familiar characters like at the same time that we know. So it's like, well, this whole series is about like taking risks and showing us what's possible in the Star Wars universe, and you're going to take us to Tatooine, F that, so
yeah.
That's why I don't like it.
Yeah.
And also like singing is cringy, dude.
Yeah,
the song, like the lyrics, maybe because these studios are based in Japan and this season will be different. I think there are studios all around the world.
Right.
So maybe it sounds cooler in Japanese. And then it was just kind of translated.
It sounded like Joseph Gordon-Levitt was like trying to rush a lot of the words because I think they were trying to fit it as close as they did to the Japanese version, which I'm sure the Japanese version sounded great, but the English version did not translate well at all. Not good.
Yeah, just weird.
And then,
but yeah, that's my beef with that.
And then for mine, which is number 8, was the TOB1. I did like it, but the animation is what was hard for me. I think that's the only reason why I didn't like. The story was cool. I mean, a robot, and how he fights. And I'm not gonna lie, I got a little emotional while watching it when his master died. You're like, oh, dude, damn. But I think really what took me out of it was just the animation of how cartoony it was, which I get, it's supposed to be different. But anyways, that was for me.
Yeah, same thing. The animation style, I just did not dig it. So that's all on that one.
La Pinocho, why you gave it an 8? You put it an 8, so let's hear it. Let's talk about
it. Here's the thing. I like different species in Star Wars, but it was like a bunny anthropomorphized what's the word? Furry. On an anime foey. It was literally a foey on an anime. And yeah, that just gave me the creeps. I don't know. I literally could not focus on the story or anything else because I was like, should I be like it's taboo in my mind, Yeah. I was like, should I be watching this? This isn't okay.
When I watched it the second time around, I had it on the background. The story is actually really good. I think they just messed up putting the furry in because the story is like, oh, it's, this, she's adopted. And then, the other sister, she's like, well, dad's not going to submit and I'm going to, and it's like a really good story. And then she gets the family lightsaber, which is like, what? You know what I mean? Like such a betrayal to her. But like, the reason why it is so low is honestly for that reason. And there's no hate. If that's your thing, there's a little hate, but whatever,
Yeah, if you're into furries, you're a freak, but that's cool. That's whatever. That's awesome. So.
Lost a lot of our listeners on that one.
Literally all of them. Wittily all of them.
Literally all of them gone. So with the twins, what I did like, it's at first I thought it was lazy how the two ships were into like one, right? The Star Cruisers, but made sense of the story of like they're twins, they're next to each other. I thought it was like, oh, it makes sense and cool. But I really like the idea of, they were created by the Sith to fulfill the Sith, what they want to do. And he's like, nah, this ain't it. I'm not going to do this. And the reason why he turns is because he wants to save his sister. I don't know. I thought the storyline was really good for that one. The reason why it's so low for me is just because there were better ones. But anyways.
Yeah, exactly. I think what I really liked about it is, again, that story and just the animation style, like her like whip lightsabers and the motion of all of it is so cool.
Really cool.
And also I used to dabble in anime just a little bit. Not very much. One of my best friends forced me into it. So against my will. And I started watching it to appease him. Anyway, in the anime community, they have a term called fan service, which is showing, female body parts to service your fans, whatever. I don't know. But I just thought it was funny that in that scene where like the lightsaber is cutting over that crest that she has on her chest to cut that to like destroy the armor, it like pops open and there's like just a tiny bit of cleavage. I just thought it was so like, and it focused on it, or maybe I focused on it because I'm a pervert, but I was like, that's just such an interesting choice to just leave in there, but such a minor thing.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. It's I didn't notice that because I'm not a freak, but anyways, just kidding.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Yeah, let's just cut that out. No, we'll keep it in.
Nope.
Let's just cut it out.
Keep it
Yeah,
in.
go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
And then for the Village Bride, I like the story. I think she was a really cool Jedi, and then she's got her master, and she's just kind of watching from afar. And like the really cool part is when she stops the shot, just kind of like going back to The Force Awakens, how
yeah,
the same thing with Kylo Ren. Super sick. I thought it was so cool. Just the bullets, and then everyone comes out like, "Whoa, what's going on?" And that's why I really like that one.
Yeah, I really like. Again, this isn't canon, but I liked just being on a world with a bunch of normal people and seeing like their culture and how they interact with the planet. So cool. Yeah, like I would love something like that in canon Star Wars live action or something like that. So very cool.
Yeah, I agree. Next, so it's funny that we both put Akakiri so high, because from what I was reading from like a bunch of articles is that this was like people's least favorite, which is crazy to me. And I don't know if it was the animation style, because I thought it was good, but the reason why I did like it so much was the ending was so good. Like nothing was resolved.
Yeah, so cool.
It reminds you so much of Anakin and Padme. You know what I mean? Like he's like, I gotta save her, but and then it ends up him turning to the dark side. And then what I really, really loved was the visual of, as that's happening, there's that just red hue that goes over everything as it's going on. And he's just like, I can change the prophecies. Like there's literally no way you can change it. If you go, you're gonna fall. He's like, I won't, and he does. That's just so good. I think that was a really good episode.
Yeah, so good. And I remember the first time I watched Visions, I didn't really like that episode. But yeah, for the same exact reason. Like he has a vision of his love dying, and he ends up being the one responsible, and he joins the dark side to prevent that inevitability.
Right.
And this time it works for him when it didn't for Anakin.
Right.
But just very, very cool. Yeah, I loved that ending. So
good. So good. The Ninth Jedi. I really enjoyed that episode watching it. And I think, of course it's not canon that when you grab a lightsaber, it changes colors to like what your passion or whatever it is. But because when they first brought that up in the episode, I'm like, okay, dumb. But then it makes sense in the end of why that was such an important thing. Like,
yeah.
Oh, that's super sick. And I texted you about this earlier when I was watching it again. If you've ever seen Invincible, there is a scene like I think it's the first episode where the guy calls everyone in, all the superheroes in to trap him, and then he kills him. And so you think that's exactly what's going to happen here, but it wasn't. It was a total opposite of like the Sith intercepting the messages and killing them, going on their behalf. So good, dude. I was like, that's
Yeah.
a great episode. But what were your thoughts?
Yeah. If I'm honest, I didn't rewatch this episode because I was kind of crunched for time today when I was preparing. I was just like, I remember I really liked that episode. So, I don't have any particular thoughts. You covered everything. So,
Right. I think
there were 2 episodes I didn't watch.
Okay, go ahead.
There were 3 episodes I didn't rewatch.
There were 9
TOB1,
episodes.
La Pinocho. There were 9 episodes I didn't rewatch. No, 3 episodes I didn't rewatch. La Pinocho, TOB1, and The Ninth Jedi. Because the other 2 I just knew I didn't really care for. And then The Ninth Jedi I remember liking a lot. So,
Right.
But my ranking still stands. Okay.
Right.
I have a good memory, kind of.
Well, dude, I mean, it's so good. I mean, when they get the lightsabers and they all turn red, their face is like, what? And I'm like, dang. And then that other guy he goes as a Sith, and then as they start fighting and he's losing, his color slowly starts to fade into I can't remember what color it ends up being, but super cool. I mean, a really cool idea. And like you said, not canon. So it's like they took the non-canonical part and ran with it. And I think they did a great job.
Right.
So,
and if I remember correctly, the animation style of that is like, sorry to cut you off.
Keep going, man.
If I remember correctly, the animation style of that is like Avatar: The Last Airbender, isn't it? Or similar? Aren't you a big fan of Avatar? Or
I am, but I
maybe
felt
I'm
like
just an idiot.
I felt like the Elder was more of that, but I think the Ninth Jedi was very similar too.
Let's see. Okay, I'm just thinking of the still that's on Disney Plus because I just glanced at it today, like I said, and okay, that's what I'm thinking of.
But next, let's go to let's do this because my number 1's the Elder, your number 1's the Duel. So you talk about the Duel and why you love it, and I'll talk about the Elder, and then we can chime in after one another speaks.
Okay, so the Duel. A little background here. Okay. Into my life, little glimpse into my life. About 4 months ago, I turned into a mega weeb. For those of you who aren't versed, a weeb is somebody who tries to appropriate Japanese culture because they're obsessed with it. And I wasn't really that. But what had happened was I was reading this anthropology book, Guns, Germs, and Steel. And it talks about the Japanese and how they came to be the Japanese, I was reading that, and I just started Ghost of Tsushima. I think I'm pronouncing that right, somewhere thereabouts, which is this cool samurai game that's not based in a whole ton of history, not historically accurate, but it's based on a historical narrative. Anyway, and that game is like killer. And I had just started watching Akira Kurosawa's films, particularly Seven Samurai, which are the films that helped to inspire George Lucas to make Star Wars. Anyway, the Duel is like so Kurosawa, it's not even funny. Like the wind and the black and white, the kind of like frame rate that it uses is so cool and so classic Japanese cinema. It's just beautiful. So that's why I really loved it. And oh my gosh, when she's like, your lightsaber blade, it's red, whatever. So cool. And you're kind of like, who is this Ronin guy? Like, what's his story? And at the end where he just takes her kyber crystal, her red kyber crystal, and adds it, and he's got like 20. Yeah. And he just tosses this one to the kid. Just so cool. Like, I want to know that guy's story and I want to follow him forever, but it's better that he's mysterious, Mm-hmm. So just couldn't have been done better. So awesome.
I agree 100%.
Do you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah. So one of the first thoughts I have is like that out of all of them was such a, because a lot of them were very heavily Japanese influenced because they came from some studios like that were Japanese, but right. That one was Akira Kurosawa. Like I thought the same exact thing watching. I was like, whoa, this is like really good compared. And also, I looked it up because I was so curious. I was like, dude, I wonder what George Lucas's favorite one. It had to have been that one, but there's no record of it of finding out. But if you watched him, that had to be his number one. I feel like because.
Yeah, so he really liked Yojimbo, Seven Samurai, but I think he was mostly influenced by Hidden Fortress. From what I've read, I don't know. Sorry.
If you've watched
his favorite Visions. Okay,
yeah,
my bad. That's so cringe.
like that. No, that's not. It's not. I mean, I know that's cool.
But yeah, I'm sure you're right. That probably was one of his favorites.
It had to have been, yeah. And everything you said is the exact same reason I loved it. And I did love the kill of the Trandoshan.
Jeez. Wow, Spencer. Go hang out with your buddy Ron DeSantis, huh?
Whoa, man. Talk about a oopsie. Trandoshan is what I wanted to say. My golly.
Goodness.
When she killed him, that was so sick. And
yeah.
And what was the other thing? Oh, and he was just calm and collect the whole time, which is dope. And then him, having the red lightsaber was just such a crazy thing. And then the last thing was
so cool.
Loved everything's black and white, and there's just pops of color. Such a sick, super good visual.
Beautiful,
I think that's
why
everyone loved it, because it's just like such a great, like visually it was great and everything. And then like has like the old time film kind of thing going on. Just really well made.
Oh, so great.
Jumping into the Elder, why it's my favorite, and I think that's I can see why everyone loves the duel, and I can see why people wouldn't put the Elder as number one. I totally get that. For me personally, I loved it because when I watched it, I can't remember where it was. I think you were watching it, or I walked in, someone was watching it, and I sat down. I was like, "Oh,
yes, it was." We were all living together. I had watched the rest of them without you because you and Jaron always wanted me to wait for the new Star Wars releases till we were all together.
Right.
But it had been like 4 days, and I was like, I'm just gonna watch these without these freaking jerks. And then you both walked in when I was watching that one, or when I was about to start that one. So
yes, and it was like, it reminded me so much of Avatar: The Last Airbender, which I love, such a huge fan of, and the animation was so good. But what I loved is like the slow pace and like what's going on. There's this guy, and I kind of wish, this might be messed up, but I wish the Padawan would have died.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
But it was really just really good. And the other thing that was funny is the reason why they didn't like it is, like you were saying earlier today, a slow burner. They're like, it took too long to get to the point. I'm like, dude, what do you have freaking 80? Like, calm down. Like, sometimes things just gotta play out, let it breathe, dude. There's gotta be a reward. If everything was just so fast and instant, life would suck. Like, dude, just sit back and chill. And it's a 15-minute episode.
Against that, it's 15 to 20 minutes. Like, if you think a story, like, you're an idiot. Jeez. Anyway.
Gosh. Can't even watch that. Oh, man. That peeved me.
Yeah. One thing, or the thing that I really loved about that is, even though this isn't canon, like, this story was the most realistic could be set in the canonical Star Wars universe. Because they're just two Jedis just out in the Outer Rim. And the Master is so cool. Like, the fact that he knows everything. Yep. Like, he's familiar with the system. He's familiar with the people. So cool. And I also love the Elder's, like, yellow eyes. Because he's, like, so gray. Mm-hmm. And so, like, his yellow eyes and the pop of his lightsabers. And they're, like, little katanas. Oh, so cool.
So good. And the sound is also what I love. Like, I love just, like, how quiet it'd be at times. And then the voice would start talking, and I was like, when I watched it, every time I watched like 3 or 4 times. I'm just like fully immersed. I'm like, oh man,
yeah,
they did such a good job with it. And the rain, and then also, what was the other thing he says? Oh, like, I wish I would have fought you in my prime. It would be a different outcome. And then even the Master, when I read his name, he's walking away. He's like, dude, if I would have fought that guy and he was younger, I'm dead. Like, shows how powerful he was.
Yeah, and I love how he's like, I didn't beat him, time did. Like, oh, so cool.
Such a good episode.
So cool.
I mean, this did give me hype for the second volume of Visions. I think, we're going to see different animation styles, but more than anything, I think, like you said last episode or 2 episodes ago, you get to just enjoy it. You don't have to worry. They can't ruin anything, It's not canon. So just sit back and enjoy it. And if it's a slow burner and it takes a little bit longer than you're used to, and in 15 minutes, just chill the hell out. Sorry.
Seriously. Thank you, Spencer. Had to be said.
Had to be said.
But yeah, so the next season comes out May 4th, a week from today, I believe. So go out and watch that. That's what we're going to be talking about next week or the next week. I don't know, Spencer. We might need to talk about that, but
yeah, we might have to take a break up here. We'll talk about it. We'll figure it out. But we'll be talking about it.
Sure.
But really, I think that was good. Everything I wanted to say. Anything else you got?
No, Visions was great. Season 3 of The Mandalorian was not great. It was good. So those are my closing thoughts.
Same. Well, thank
Oh, okay. Let's do it. Okay. Here's the thing, dude. Sometimes I have 2 podcasts. Okay. Spencer technically has 3, but anyway, whatever. I do one of them remote, and when I'm editing, when we do our sign off, it's always lagging off. So last time I wasn't even going to try because I was like, it's a nightmare, and like it's better if one of us just says it. So that being said, let's do it together. If it sounds off, I'm sorry, but we're doing it remote. We're doing the best we can because Spencer won't move up here to be close to me.
I will.
Anyway, okay, let's do it.
Well, the other thing is, I think it's so funny. That's why I never edit it. I just leave it off because I think it's funnier.
Yeah, it's bad. It's hilarious. So
okay, well,
okay,
let's do this.
3, 2.
Okay.
No, you go ahead.
Thank you for being a disciple of the
Thank you for being a disciple of the Force. Beautiful.